Number 7 is a good example of why you need to practice for the SAT. If you look at 7 and compare it to number 6, those choices kind of look similar. They're both kind of short. You're changing a word or two. It doesn't seem like there's that much complexity to both of those questions, number 6 and number 7. However, if I've practiced, I recognize that all of these are verbs. And verbs have a special grammar rule that we need to apply. We need to think about singular versus plural verbs, right? A verb matches with a subject. There's an action, the verb, and something does the action, the subject. Those two things need to agree, meaning that they both need to be either singular or plural. So knowing the rule, I'm now reading this sentence a different way. I'm not just listening for what sounds right. I'm applying a rule. It's much more mathematical once we recognize that there's a rule involved. So let's take a look. The experiment confirmed their suspicions when the half of the lake containing the phosphates was teeming with blue-green algae. Okay, I need to find the subject of this verb, the thing that's doing the teeming. Now, what most people think is phosphates, which is plural. And so we need a plural verb, which would be something like were teeming, are teeming. Was and teems are both singular. How do I know that? Well, all singular verbs end with S, which is kind of the opposite of what you'd expect for a noun. So this is a very confusing rule. It's probably the most grammatical rule on the SAT, but it does come up. And it is solvable. So knowing that I have a plural phosphates, I might think that were or are would be the correct verbs to match with that, plural with plural. However, there's another complexity here that we can easily miss if we're not actively looking for it. We need to watch out for words like of. Of is what's called a preposition. Prepositions are little words, ones we often ignore, that add on extra pieces to a sentence. So those extra pieces are called prepositional phrases. So let me make it very clear here. The extra starts with the of, and all this stuff, all the way up to phosphates, is extra. It's helpful for me to understand what the sentence is saying, but grammatically, it's unnecessary. How do I know it's unnecessary? Well, I can kind of chop that out of the sentence and it still should make some sort of sense. The experiment confirmed their suspicions when the half was teeming with blue-green algae. So it makes a little less sense because I don't know what half of what, but grammatically, half is the subject and it's one half, so that's singular, to match with the singular was that's already there. So this is really tough. B and C are wrong. The SAT wants you to think that they're right because they put that plural noun right next to the verb. But they do that on purpose. It's not always wrong, but a lot of times what they're doing is they're trying to disguise the fact that this piece can be crossed out of the sentence. We don't need it. It's grammatically just extra. Now we would need to decide whether we need a past tense verb like was or a present tense verb just like teams, but we know that the rest of this story is in the past tense, confirmed, and so we're talking about something that happened in the past. This experiment was conducted in the past, so A is the correct answer here. We just use that from the context. But the tense thing you probably would have gotten. That's not hard compared to the subject-verb thing. There will be more questions like this on more practice tests. They always do it. It's just one of the SAT's favorite rules. This is a good example. Go to Khan Academy, use my study guides, do something to practice this rule again and again until you get it. Because it's frustrating at first, but once you figure out the way that it works, it's a guaranteed 10 points. You just need to know where to look for the subject, and you will get it every single time.